And now...
What is this?
I know you're gonna dig this.
This is the Flatland Sports Podcast.
Where do you come from? Lubbock, Texas?
Lubbock, Texas.
A place called Lubbock.
I wonder if they think I'm so gorgeous back in Lubbock.
What do you care about Lubbock? You're big time now.
I'm just a little homesick, that's all.
Is that what you want, Larry, to spend the night in Lubbock, Texas at a Days Inn with a $15 voucher from Cinnabon?
Lubbock? No, it's near Lubbock.
What's it like there?
It's flat. Real flat. You stand on a coffee can, you can see Colorado.
How are you doing from across the Great Plains of West Texas? This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, free and available worldwide, exclusively on YouTube. Texas Tech is getting ready for 2026, making some huge moves in the portal. You stole the number one quarterback prospect from Louisiana State and generally destroying college football, according to all the experts. We'll talk that. We'll talk Texas Tech Red Raider and Lady Raider basketball, and we'll also have the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, oh yeah, we played a football game. We'll talk about that too, I guess. But first, this episode of the Flatland Sports Podcast is powered by Midwest Helmets, where owner Dallas Thompson turns football art into a full-on experience. If you've ever wanted a custom helmet of any team, any design, or a wild idea straight from your imagination, Dallas can make it happen. Want a classic double T on a bass boat glitter shell? He'll do it. Need a helmet to rep your fantasy football squad? He'll build that too. Whatever you're dreaming of, Dallas brings it to life with incredible attention to detail. These are one-of-a-kind pieces that will level up your office, man cave, studio, anywhere you rep your team. To order, just DM Midwest Helmets on Instagram or hit their Facebook page. Both are linked in the description. And when you mention Flatland Sports in your message, you'll get 10% off your custom build. Midwest Helmets, custom, bold, and built to stand out. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're here right now, like the video, double check that you are subscribed. It's free for you. It helps the show grow. Lots to get into today. I guess we'll start with the Orange Bowl. Apparently there was a football game played. Easy to forget. Lots of life has been lived from a Texas Tech perspective since New Year's Day. It is January 7th as I record this. 7 days, and it feels like a lifetime ago. But Texas Tech season ended with a 23-0 loss to the Oregon Ducks. Texas Tech's defense performed as advertised, kept the Ducks relatively at bay for the entire game, held Oregon to just 64 rushing yards, which is the Ducks' lowest rush total since a negative 23-yard performance against Ohio State in last year's Rose Bowl. And you thought that was the secret sauce to win because Oregon, any game that they had been held under 100 rushing yards, they lost. They were 0-2 in games where they were under 100 rushing yards, undefeated if they were over. This is, of course, the exception. The game was 6-0 at halftime, 13-0 going into the fourth quarter. You felt like if the offense could just turn it on at some point, just like you saw against Arizona State. And I realize Arizona State was a loss, but bear with me. Utah might be a better example too, but games where it was just a deadlock throughout the entire game. Nobody could get any separation, and the offense just couldn't get anything going. And then all of a sudden, about the fourth quarter, or maybe even midway through the third quarter, they just turned it on. Arizona State case, about midway through the fourth quarter, the offense turned it on, came back from a 2-score deficit to take the lead before unfortunately giving it up in the final minutes of the game. Ultimately, it was not to happen. Oregon did to you what you have done to most of the Big 12. So that's what that feels like, basically. And that was take your running backs out of the game, take your running game out of the game, and force Baron Morton to execute the offense against a defense that could devote its entire secondary to defending the pass. Now, I love Baron Morton, but he's just not that kind of quarterback. We saw back in 2024 against Washington State, a game where Taj Brooks was out for an injury. Morton struggled to move the ball down the field without support of a solid run game. So that's the season for Texas Tech. You join the ranks of Ohio State and Michigan, and I'll just cut it there. Now, you join the ranks of Ohio State and Michigan and the teams to put up 0 in the College Football Playoff Club. Not bad company, I guess, but a terrible list. Something positive to take away, though, is that Oregon, along with Indiana, were both blown out in the first rounds of the College Football Playoff last season, and were able to build on that experience and come back stronger in 2025. Frankly, I would tell you that would be the national championship game were they not in the same bracket. So really good game coming up for Indiana and Oregon in the college football playoff semifinal. All signs point to Texas Tech being able to follow suit in 2026 with the moves being made in the portal. And you keep a good core of experienced players who are going to remember this for forever and certainly take from this. And the biggest thing and the biggest person to take from it is Joey McGuire. Now has this experience, knows what things worked, knows what things didn't work, knows what things maybe caused issues during the weeks leading up to the game, and will be able to correct it for the 2026-2027 edition of the college football playoff, which the Red Raiders will be back in. Mark it down now. Now, we'll talk about that later as far as the portal goes. First, let's go ahead and get through these position group grades, and we'll get through them quickly. Quarterbacks, you get an F. 0 points scored, couldn't move the ball. Baron Morton struggled the whole game. Completed, I think you got, let me see if I can get the stats pulled up here real quick. I know this is great podcasting right now. Let's see. Should have had this up earlier. There we go. Okay. Technical difficulties on a pre-recorded show. That's just wonderful, isn't it? Okay. So Baron Morton, 18 for 32, 137 yards, 2 interceptions. That's not going to win very many games at all. Certainly not going to win when you're playing a team like the Oregon Ducks, who in their own way really struggled offensively as well, but not quite as much as you did. Running backs, you get an F, unfortunately. Jacoby Williams, 13 carries, 81 yards. He actually had a better day than the game really felt like. He did have one long run for 50 yards. I hoped maybe it would have sparked the comeback. It didn't. Cam Dickey, 11 carries, 29 yards. Baron Morton, negative 32. He got sacked 6 times in this game. Wide receivers, you get an F, unfortunately. Terrence Carter, who is coming back, by the way, that is a huge return. Terrence Carter, 9 receptions, 72 yards, 0 touchdowns across the board, of course. What was strange about this game is that you weren't able to spread it around as much as you usually do. Reggie Virgil got 2 catches. He usually gets way more than that for 29 yards. Jacoby Williams, 5 catches for 17 yards. Coy Eakin had 1 catch for 11 yards. Cam Dickey had a catch. You didn't see anyone else at all. Caleb Douglas wasn't in the game at all, and that was a big factor. Oregon just completely shut him down. Offensive line, you had a better game than the score indicates. We'll give you a C. Good pass protection. Could not really run block at all. And then maybe that's not fair because what was happening is they were creating holes and then Oregon would plug them up as soon as the running back got through the hole. So there wasn't a whole lot more you could ask the offensive line to do from a run blocking standpoint. Oregon was just playing that Iowa State Matt Campbell defense where they look like they're spread out across the field and all of a sudden they're just right where you're trying to go. Defense, we'll flip the script here a little bit. Defense, you pass as you have all season with an A+. You couldn't have asked this group to do more. Held Oregon to 6 points at the half, 13 points at the start of the fourth quarter. So despite scoring 0 points throughout the entire game, you stayed in this game all the way until the very end because of this defense. And despite Texas Tech, the offense consistently putting them in short field situations here, Tech was in the game all the way until the end of the fourth quarter. And it's just a shame now that we have to say goodbye to this team. We have to say goodbye to Jacob Rodriguez, David Bailey, Lead Hunter, Romello Height. We've got to say goodbye to Coy Eakin. We've got to say goodbye to Reggie Virgil. We've got to say goodbye to, a magical group here for Texas Tech that'll be remembered forever. And of course, we do have to say goodbye to Baron Morton, who obviously did not play well in the Orange Bowl. He'll be the first to tell you. But If you've seen my Patrick Mahomes meme that I put up for recruiting purposes, I'll put it up for you now, Baron. That's a Red Raider. The journey, he grew up in Lubbock, a Texas Tech fan, stayed his entire career, played injured through most of it. He had a broken leg this season, had a broken shoulder last season. Gave everything he had to Texas Tech. And in my book, Baron Morton, I don't care what happened in the Orange Bowl, he was still responsible for engineering the greatest turnaround in Texas Tech history, engineering the end of the decade of suck post Mike Leach, a 15-year-long drought. And Baron Morton will get credit and should get credit for turning it around in Lubbock under the first years of Joey McGuire. So thank you so much for an incredible season to all involved. This is just the beginning. We will be back, and we will see the new heights that this team will ascend to. When we return, we'll talk Texas Tech basketball. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, presented by Midwest Helmets. Texas Tech basketball was in action last night. Traveled to Houston to take on the number 8th ranked Houston Cougars. A game, unfortunately, Texas Tech fell 69-65. Had the lead with under 4 to go before Houston just went on a run to seal it for them. This Houston team may actually be a better team than last year's, especially on defense. They remind me a lot of the Bob Huggins West Virginia teams from years ago. Cougars pulled off an impressive double team against Christian Anderson all night. Held Anderson to just 7 points. Now, because they were double teaming Anderson, that allowed other players to step up. Jalen Petty especially stepped up in a big way. 20 points, 6 for 10 from field goal range, and 3 out of 3 from free throws. JT Toppin, of course, recorded another double-double, 18 points, 11 rebounds. And Donovan Atwell had a great game, 13 points, 5 rebounds. Definitely one of the most physical games I've seen all year. Houston pressed hard all night. And Tech really did enough things to win for the most part, held the lead, just needed to make some shots in the final minutes, shot themselves in the foot as well with turnovers late in the game. And some of it was questionable from an officiating standpoint. Frankly, some of the worst officiating that I've ever seen, particularly at the end, but all throughout the game. Now, the one positive from an officiating standpoint is they did not eject JT Toppin and Grant McCaslin, because JT Toppin kicked a guy in the nether regions again. But at the very end of this game, you have a foul called against Houston as Milos Uzan chopped Luan Watts in the face as he was coming up to make a shot, who made the shot. So you should have had the score plus an and one opportunity to go up potentially 62-60 with just minutes to go in the game, less than 2 minutes to go. Instead, for whatever reason, it's called a non-shooting foul. Points are wiped off the board. You make one of 2 free throws and go up 60-6, or you tie the game 60-60. And then after that, Houston just pressed and put you off the sorts, and you couldn't get any momentum back to close it out. Now, good officiating, bad officiating, that's never a reason to lose a game ever. It's never the reason you lose the game, I should say. You have to play through whatever the situation is. Texas Tech did that in Houston last year after JT Toppin and Grant McCaslin were very heinously ejected. Didn't have to go through that this year. You went through some other issues this year, and ultimately you've got a very good Houston team on the road. You nearly won, and you're going to get them back in Lubbock in the coming weeks. Tough games like this without your bigs are really, really hard to win, and hopefully we'll get Luke Mamboy back soon. For now, the Red Raiders travel to Colorado on Saturday to take on the Buffaloes. That is a 6 p.m. tip-off on CBS Sports Network. Moving on now to Lady Raider basketball, absolutely rolling right now. Lady Raiders are still undefeated, 16-0 for the record, and now 3-0 in Big 12 play after a win over Arizona, 80-49. This was the best regular season conference win since 2005. That was a 87-41 win over Colorado. back when Marcia Sharp was still coaching the Lady Raiders. You had 5 players in double figures. Danae Fritz with a season best 16 points on 60% shooting from the field. Adley Blacklock had a season high of 15 points on 80% shooting from the field. Snuda Collins put up her 14th double-digit scoring game with 11 points and posted a career-best 3 blocks in this game. And Bailey Maupin, solid as always, with 13 points. Jada Malone put up 14 points. It was just absolute domination, which is very quickly becoming a theme of this team this year. Lady Raiders are ranked number 17 this week. One of only 4 teams in all of Division I that still remains undefeated. And now projected to be a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, something that I just never thought I was going to see. I just didn't think I was going to see that again. I didn't think that Texas Tech was, even in the NIL era, was going to be able to devote enough to women's college basketball, which is just exploding right now in terms of national popularity. And as a result, what teams are willing to put into women's basketball. But they did. They are here to stay. And the Lady Raiders will travel to Morgantown to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers tonight, 6 p.m. on ESPN+. When we return, it's a portal party in Lubbock, Texas. We'll tell you about the transfer portal happenings. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, presented by Midwest Helmets. Texas Tech is doing what Texas Tech does, and that is making waves in the transfer portals, making Blue Bloods and SEC fans upset and confused. Keep getting people in my mention, specifically from Austin and College Station, simultaneously trying to tell me that players are only wanting to go to Texas Tech for the money, while also trying to claim that Texas Tech doesn't have near as much money as Texas and A&M do. We'll break down the entire portal list as it sits today, and there are some, obviously, there will be some things that happen between now and my next show a week from today. But we'll start with the biggest gets. Of course, Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback from Cincinnati. You've played him here at Texas Tech a couple seasons ago. Very nearly beat you in Lubbock. Listed by some as the number 1 quarterback in the portal. Now, of course, once he committed to Texas Tech, he fell a few spots. Now, some will have him at number 2 behind Sam Levitt. I've seen him as low as number 3. In the portal, but prior to committing and when he was committed to LSU, or not committed to LSU, trending towards LSU, he was listed as the number 1 quarterback in the country. Take that information and do with it what you will. But he visited Texas Tech and then left to go on his LSU visit. Now, here in Lubbock, of course, we're accustomed to players visiting Tech and then just canceling, signing on the spot. On3 had a crystal ball prediction for LSU. LSU pushed very, very hard for him. Lane Kiffin pushed very, very hard for him. Offered somewhere in the range between $5 to $7 million for him. And then shortly after the visit, he turned around and committed to Texas Tech. Just, you hate to see it for Lane Kiffin, missing out on his guy again. Not a lot of team success with Cincinnati with Brendan Sorsby, which has a few people kind of raising their eyebrows a little bit. However, the talent, his talent is undeniable, and he will fit perfectly in Mac Leftwich's offense. This is the guy that Mac Leftwich wanted, and up till now, and it's only been 1 season for Mac Leftwich, but he hasn't been playing with his quarterback. This is the guy that he wanted. This is the guy that he got, and this will be the guy to usher in the second flat double T era for Texas Tech sports, Texas Tech football. Now, another big get was Austin Romaine, the senior from Kansas State, committed to Texas Tech almost immediately after the portal opened, entered with a do not contact tag, announced his commitment to Texas Tech within the first hours. In fact, I saw his name in the transfer portal pop up shortly after midnight, the day that the portal opened. Was concerned with how you're going to replace a guy like Jacob Rodriguez, and frankly, I was concerned with how they're going to reload this defense altogether. It seemed like you caught lightning in a bottle, but Texas Tech absolutely made the right moves here. Austin Romaine checks all the boxes. Last season, 66 tackles, 1 interception, racked up 96 tackles in 2024. Has all of the ability to just jump right in, and along with guys like Ben Roberts, just really dominate the linebacker position. Now here's a rundown of Texas Tech's portal haul as I record this today. You got wide receiver Jalen Jones from Alabama State. He was all SWAC with 51 receptions, 1,167 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns last year. Also picked up wide receiver Dante Lee from Liberty. He totaled 32 receptions for 589 yards and 5 touchdowns this season. Averaged 18.4 yards per catch. You picked up defensive lineman Julian LaVenture from Akron. He totaled 45 tackles, 10.5 tackles for losses, 4 sacks, 1. I smudged my notes here, but earned all MAC honors here. Julian LaVenture. He is a guy who's going to come in and take over in that for that spot, the hole left behind by David Bailey. You also picked up cornerback David Martin from UTSA. He put up 40 tackles last year, 3 swatted passes, 1 sack, 1 interception, 2 tackles for a loss in his career so far. He's going to have 2 years of eligibility left for Texas Tech. Another great player, Trey White from San Diego State University. Trey has 29 tackles for a loss, 19.5 sacks in the last 2 seasons. Another guy that you want to come in and kind of take over for the role of David Bailey and Romello Height. And speaking of, Bryce Butler from Washington totaled 19 tackles, 2 sacks. Excuse me if I mispronounce this. Mateen Ibarag. I know I said that wrong. I'm going to say it right. I promise. In the coming weeks and months. Wake Forest totaled 21 quarterback hurries, 3 sacks. He is the number 1 defensive lineman in the On3 portal rankings. And your most recent acquisition, JoJo Johnson from Oregon State, totaled 18 tackles, 6.5 tackles for a loss, 2.5 sacks, and an interception in 11 games this season. Texas Tech, I knew you were going to improve the offense after this season. It was going to be easy to find guys to plug in, and as long as you got a guy like Brendan Sorsby at quarterback to take over for an injured Will Hammond, it was going to be fine. I was concerned with whether or not you would be able to maintain this level of defense with the guys leaving. And yes, you put this team together on the fly last offseason, but could you do it again? The answer absolutely is yes. Now we'll see how they perform on the field, but this may actually be a better roster when you combine that with who's staying. Like I said, Ben Roberts. This might be a better defensive roster than you saw even last year. Another guy on the radar, of course, that we are monitoring, Cam Coleman, wide receiver from Auburn. He is the number 1 player in the portal. He is visiting Texas Tech today. Should be making a decision soon. Hopefully, we didn't get this with Brendan Sorsby, but hopefully a situation where he commits on the spot. And from what I'm hearing, A&M is out of the running. He is going to be choosing between the Texas Longhorns or the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Financially, you're with it, of course, and culturally, you're with it. And I'm wondering, we'll address this in the good, the bad, and the ugly, but Texas is struggling a little bit in the transfer portal this season. But I think as we sit right now, your chances of getting Coleman are very, very high at this point. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. When we return, we'll get the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast presented by Midwest Helmets.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll start with the good. Texas Tech's football season, it didn't end the way we wanted it to in the playoff era. It's never going to end the way you want it to, except for one team every year. But 12-2, the most wins in a single season in Texas Tech football history. Big 12 champions, your first conference championship since 1994. your first solo not conference championship since the 50s, since Texas Tech was in the Border Conference. This season will be looked fondly on for many, many years in the future, and hopefully will be remembered as the season that started the next era of Texas Tech football. Texas Tech, as we sit today, you have everything in front of you, and I believe this is going to be like what we thought the Mike Leach era was going to be, and that was the thing, the season that punched you through from being just a kind of middle-of-the-road, mediocre Southwest Conference Big 12 team to a national title contender. Now, the rug got pulled out from under you with Mike Leach. Fingers crossed we don't have any rugs pulled out from under us this time. I don't see it happening. Everybody's in lockstep right now. One more good. Now, I'm not sure if this is a good or an ugly. We'll treat it as a good because I think it's good. Paul Feinbaum went on First Take and declared the SEC football dominance era to be over. He was quoted as saying, "There's no way I can defend the SEC." Went on and just talked about how the performance has been abysmal, that he can't defend it even though his employers want him to. I'm paraphrasing here. You hate to see it, but I've been saying for years that there are cracks in the SEC. There's cracks in the Big Ten as well, but what the SEC was doing was not sustainable in any way, and it's starting to crumble as before our eyes, and you hate to see it. Couldn't have happened to a better conference. Let's get a bad. Demon Williams, the quarterback at Washington, has entered the transfer portal, expected to land at Ole Miss. That's not the bad part. The bad part is that Washington, the university, says he just signed a contract days ago worth $5 million and has to stay, and that they are going to pursue all legal avenues to enforce control here. This, I have not seen this before. This could get really ugly. It could also be nothing. Maybe Ole Miss just writes a check and pays we'll call it a transfer fee, a buyout. But either way, the beginning of the words buyouts in college football has entered the chat. This could lead to some really, really ugly legal battles. And when you get really ugly legal battles, of course, what you get after that is case law. And this could be something that changes the landscape of college football forever. So something to monitor, something to watch. And then, of course, at the bottom of it all and at the point of it all, Lane Kiffin may actually be the very first college football coach to get busted and get hit for tampering. And couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Let's get an ugly. The officiating in the Texas Tech versus Houston game was absolute garbage. I touched on it during the recap of Texas Tech basketball, but just inconsistent calls, multiple instances of points being wiped off the board in favor of Houston. You had a goaltending taken away. Again, if I had a nickel every time that happened, I'd have two nickels, but it's weird that it happened twice. Between Texas Tech in the NCAA tournament last year and now against Houston this year. Welcome to Big 12 basketball, I guess. Buckle up. When you come to Big 12 basketball games, you're going to be in for a wild ride from an officiating standpoint. Another ugly. The Texas Longhorns transfer portal escapades. They have not gotten any of their guys. They have swung and missed on pretty much everyone they've tried to sign so far. They've only signed a couple special teams guys. And then the biggest news, they lost key wide receiver Parker Livingstone to, wait for it, Oklahoma. Just not what the Longhorns were expecting when you were thinking that you're going to build off of a Citrus Bowl win to make a run at the college football playoff next season, and instead you're just not getting the pieces that you want, you're not getting the players that you want, and now you're losing guys that you didn't expect to lose. And then you take all of that and you put it together with rumors, and these are rumors. There are no reports. There's nothing beyond surface level here, but there are rumblings that Steve Sarkisian may be going to the NFL this season, and you see the abysmal transfer portal progress combined with those rumors. Is there trouble in Hutto, Texas? We'll see. A situation worth monitoring for sure. When we return, we'll be back for one more. We'll pick the semifinal college football games. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast presented by Midwest Helmets. Back for one more, and before we get out of here, let's take a look at the upcoming college football playoff games. We'll start with the first game. That is this Thursday, tomorrow. The Verbo Fiesta Bowl between the 10th seeded Miami Hurricanes and the 6th seeded Ole Miss Rebels, just as we all predicted. What should be a great game. I'm expecting Miami to come out and just punch and have its way with Ole Miss. Miami, a much better team than their seeding indicates. Ole Miss, in my opinion, a much worse team than their record indicates. Miami, currently a 3-point favorite here, and I'm going to pick Miami to win this one 26-21. Kind of a weird, wonky score, but it's going to happen. And then the final college football playoff semifinal game, that is, my computer will cooperate with me, Oregon and Indiana at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Two teams that are just absolute stories in college football that, of course, ESPN is refusing to really talk about and touch on because they are not SEC teams. But you have two of the best quarterbacks in college football with Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza. And frankly, the two most complete teams in the college football playoff field. If you're asking me, this game is the national championship game. Whoever wins this is going to win the whole thing. Indiana is a 4-point favorite. They have a 70.4% chance to win. However, my gut is telling me to go with the Oregon Ducks, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm picking Oregon to win this one 32-28. And the Ducks will go back to a national championship game to take on the Miami Hurricanes on a Monday night, again, because ESPN and college football is getting bullied by the NFL right now, and it's a whole thing. But that's all I've got for you. Please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, even if you think you've been subscribed, because I've just been popping up on your feed all the time. Double check, make sure. And special thanks to Midwest Helmets, our sponsor. Please check him out. He does great work. Go order a custom football helmet, mention Flatland Sports, and you will get 10% off your custom helmet. And of course, follow Flatland Sports, Flatland_sports on Twitter, or search Flatland Sports on TikTok, Facebook, or anywhere else you check out social media on. For Flatland Sports, I am Christopher Johnston. Thank you so much for taking the time today, and Wreck 'em Tech.